Live from clickorlando.com and WKMG, we're getting results in your neighborhood. Now it's 6:30.
This is News 6 at 6:30, getting results. Thank you so much for joining us here live on News 6 Plus. I'm Ginger Gadsden. Tallahassee police say 2 people are dead and at least 6 are injured after a shooting on Florida State campus today. Recapping the breaking news we've been following all day long, the suspect was also injured. The shots were fired just before noon today on campus. Investigators say the gunman is a 20-year-old FSU student and the son of a Leon County Sheriff's deputy. They say he used a handgun that belonged to his mom to carry out the shooting. He is in the hospital, but in custody. News 6 anchor Matt Austin is taking that more than 250-mile journey to his alma mater at FSU. He joins us now live on the road. Matt, what a tragic day.
Yeah, awful day for anybody affiliated with Florida State University. We're about a half hour out now from Tallahassee, and it was terrible when we watched that press conference and heard that 2 lives were lost today right on campus at the student union. Those 2 people who died, not students though. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean they were visitors on campus? Could they be faculty? We still have to learn that from the law enforcement agencies who are conducting this investigation. We know 6 people are hurt in the hospital. That does not include the shooter. So there are 9 people in total involved in this. All campus events are closed. Police are asking people to avoid this area as it is one giant active crime scene. Students have been evacuated throughout the evening. But we have been getting reports all day from students just talking about the moments they heard that gunfire.
The shots rang out, and we were like, is that construction going on, or what was happening? And so we got up, looked out the window, and I remember looking outside and hearing 5 more shots go off. And I was like, what's going on?
I was studying for an exam, but yeah, it was chaos. We were standing up there, and then we actually were by the windows. So like at the windows, we saw cops running, students running. It was just like complete chaos. Everyone was like running all over the place. And then we saw like a gurney, and then like the gurney came back and the guy had his arm cut off, and I think like he was bleeding and like he had like bandages and stuff. And so like that was really hard to see.
About 15 seconds before the actual shooting happened, a bunch of kids started running around screaming, and we're just like, oh, what's going on? And then probably maybe 10 gunshots happened, and everyone's like, oh my God.
I just hear gunshots, and I was like, oh, that's weird, but I didn't realize like how close they were. And I hear more. It was like 5 gunshots in a row, and everybody got up, looked at each other, and just started running.
Horrifying situation out there on campus at Florida State University. In that press conference earlier today, they talked about giving another update, another press conference this evening. We're going to be there pretty soon. Hopefully we'll be there in time for that. Very interesting details about the shooter, 20-year-old Phoenix Eichner, whose mom is a deputy for the Leon County Sheriff's Office, and even using her handgun in that shooting. Much more details to come as we get into Tallahassee. Ginger, I'm going to send it back into you in the studio.
Yeah, Matt, we know when we report these kinds of stories, we say take yourself out of the story because it's really not about us. But this is one of those times where you can talk a little bit about your experience, because you're a dad of a college-age student. And I asked you earlier, do you have these talks with your daughter as she is on campus now? And, you know, what do you say to her to get ready for something like this? Because as we see right now, it is a possibility.
Yeah, there's really no way to get ready for it, I don't think. I mean, you kind of guide your kids on what to do when there's a lockdown. I know a lot of these college kids went running through campus, which is really not what you want to do. If you're in a safe classroom and the door can be locked, that is the ideal place to be in a situation like this, and you just wait until law enforcement can get there and save you. But yeah, Ginger, you know, it's tough. On my campus alone, Florida State, in 2014, we had a shooting at the library. In 2018, a young woman and another lady were shot at a hot yoga studio. They were actually remembering that young woman. She was a senior at FSU today, and that event got canceled because of this mass shooting that happened today on campus. So it's something you have to talk to your kids about because, quite frankly, it happens pretty often now. Gigi.
Yeah, and one of the saddest things that I've heard all day today, there was a tweet by an FSU student who had the misfortune of going to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School during that shooting. And that student couldn't believe that they found themselves in this situation again. And your heart just aches for someone like that, because it seems like these events are just following wherever they go and they can't escape it.
Yeah, this generation's definitely having to deal with a lot of things that we did not have to deal with when we were in college, and it's a shame.
It is a shame. All right, Matt Austin reporting live for us on his way to Tallahassee. Matt, thank you so much. And with Matt on his way to Tallahassee tonight, News 6 is going to be your source for any updates from police and the community. It is the focus of News 6 at 11 tonight. ClickOrlando.com will have any updates when we are not on the air. All right, turning now to our forecast now. Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas joins us with our dry weather conditions. They continue.
They do, and there's really no end in sight here. I know it's the dry season, but I mean, we are way below where we should be this time of the year. For reference, last year, there was no drought across Central Florida. Now we have that severe drought category that is continuing to be maintained. Of course, we had no rain to help alleviate that situation. A lot of orange on this map over the Florida Peninsula. That's the drier air in the mid to upper levels of our atmosphere. Gradually over the next couple of days, we're going to try to bring in a little more moisture, at least to moisten up the atmosphere a little bit. Not going to produce any kind of rainfall, but you see the breeze now off of the Atlantic, so that's at least helping a little bit. About 23 mile per hour gusts in Sanford, 14 mile per hour gusts in Daytona Beach, at about 10 to 15 along the Space Coast tonight. Now, we also don't want the wind to dry things back out, but at least it's bringing in a little bit of moisture. Again, that's all relative. 77 by 7. We're back to 72 by 9. Clear skies continue. We're falling into the low to mid 60s overnight tonight. A touch warmer when you wake up tomorrow. Very hot heading into Easter for April standards. We are going to pinpoint that on the 7-day forecast, Ginger, coming up at about 6:47.
We'll see you then, Jonathan. Thank you. Well, of all the roads in Central Florida, we all know I-4 is the busiest. And for people in Seminole and Volusia counties, this is the pinch point, the St. Johns River Bridge. We know the problem all too well, but what solutions are on the table to actually fix it? News 6 reporter Catherine Silver found out commissioners in Seminole County want to speed up what the state is working on so your drive hopefully gets better, faster.
You don't have to imagine this view of brake lights driving on I-4 in Seminole County. You've seen this point of view before. Slowdowns or complete stops.
Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Congestion in the early evening backs up all the way to Longwood.
It takes me like more than 30 minutes to get here.
On the way home?
Yes, on the way home.
Especially around about 4:30. I can see it from my house. Something needs to be done about it.
It's no surprise drivers we talked to today think there's room for improvements. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday, and you can see there's already traffic over the bridge. Right now, this is where the express lanes end near 434. We know about projects happening towards the theme parks and all the way to Polk County. But what about Seminole and Volusia? Chairman Jay Zembauer, commissioners are looking at a resolution next week.
We are on Tuesday, and Volusia County and Seminole County collectively, they'll do their own resolution asking FDOT to consider moving this part of the project further up in priority.
FDOT considered adding express lanes before 2020, but rising costs and limited funding push back their timeline.
So the longer we're waiting for something to happen, the further we get off in history, the more restricted and constrained that roadway occurs.
When we reached out to the state Thursday, they said they are reviewing the project and more recent traffic studies to see if the current concept should be revised to meet future infrastructure demands.
We're asking the state, and we're also going to urge our federal partners and representatives up there to endeavor upon if there's any federal funding that can help fast track this sooner.
Because as Central Florida keeps growing, so does the demand on our infrastructure.
Our position is Central Florida is the keystone to what happens throughout the rest of Florida, going from the East Coast to West Coast, and arguably the central location for the tourist areas within the entire state. So it only makes sense this is where the money should go.
Catherine Silver, News 6.
During crisis situations, nurses are almost always on the front lines, but a national study shows there are not enough of them. UCF is working to fix that, though. News 6 reporter Laverne McGee spent some time at their College of Nursing that's getting results.
I never went into college expecting I would learn how to save lives.
Jenna Koo is in her final year at UCF's College of Nursing. She's very aware of the projected shortage of nurses. The Florida Hospital Association projects that Florida could have a shortage of almost 60,000 nurses by 2035. And the National Council of State Boards of Nursing released a new national study. We spoke via Zoom with their Director of Research, Brennan Martin, who says there's been some recovery since the COVID-19 pandemic, but shortages will continue.
So since 2022, we documented approximately 138,000 nurses departed the workforce for many of those same reasons that we have seen really borne out in the data in prior survey cycles. So those are short staffing, high workloads that kind of accompany the short staffing, and then elevated levels of both burnout and stress.
It's very common that we see patients pass away or struggling physically, and it's tough to see that day in and day out.
But Jenna says she still encourages people to consider this career.
Jenna's going to show me some of what she learned in school. She's going to take my blood pressure. Jenna? Okay.
Mary Lou Soul is the dean of the UCF College of Nursing and says the growing population in Central Florida is also adding to the shortage here. They're moving into a new building in Lake Nona in August.
When we get to the new space in Lake Nona, that we can educate an additional 150 graduates a year that are eligible for licensure. And those nurses tend to stay in Central Florida and in the state.
It's a very hard, sometimes unforgiving, very difficult job, but it has its rewarding moments. The best is when a patient comes to you and says, "Thank you for the care that you have given me."
Koo is graduating this spring and has already got a job as an emergency department nurse, ready to help get results. In Orlando, Laverne McGee, News 6.
It is Central Florida's #1 news website, clickorlando.com. So let's check out what's trending. Our digital team is looking back when the largest city in Florida was wiped out by a hurricane nearly 2 centuries ago. St. Joseph was picked over Tallahassee in 1838 for Florida's first constitutional convention to become a state. After a population decline from yellow fever and becoming a coastal resort, a strong hurricane blasted the panhandle and decimated the town. And here are some of the other top stories trending right now over on clickorlando.com. Orlando ranks 176 on Wallet Hub's list of America's most affordable cities. Clickorlando.com features the rest of those cities, and that is not a good place to be. And our meteorologist Michelle Morgan, she is in Orlando, breaks down how a drought map is made and how it helps local cities issue burn bans. Our website features her explanation on this as well. Well, it's a one-eye eaglet, and boy, is it lucky. A volunteer eagle watcher sprang into action to give this majestic bird a second chance. First, though, a more personal rescue, a woman helping her mom evacuate from a brush fire, and for a moment, she fought the fire herself. You're watching News 6 at 6:30 live on News 6 Plus. We're getting results in Howey in the Hills, Titusville, and all of Central Florida. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
As fire threats remain high, one family in Melbourne is feeling highly favored. Firefighters stopped a 30-acre brush fire that came within feet of their home. News 6's James Barbero was on the scene yesterday as crews spent 6 hours to contain the fire. James went back to the neighborhood today to meet a brave woman who helped evacuate her mom while for a moment fighting the fire herself.
So Darasena Odom is showing me just how close the fire got to her mom's home here at Lamplighter Village. This is a 55 and older community, right up to this fence right here, and it definitely still smells like fire around here, huh?
Yes, yes it does. My mom said she started seeing ashes, and I told her, Mom, that's normal because of the fire that's across the street. And she was like, no, Derry, like there's ashes. And so I look out the door and I see right over there, I see fire. And so I immediately turned back to my mom and I said, I need you to stay calm. I need you to grab your cats and I need you to get in the car and go. And so I came out here, I grabbed the hose and I started watering it down.
So at what point did you know you were in over your head trying to put out the fire yourself?
When I looked back and I seen how big it was, it engulfed over the entire fence and I seen it go up the trees and I dropped the hose immediately and said, God, this is in your hands. And it's literally by the grace of God, as you can see, it didn't damage anything.
Yeah, you can see the ground's burned right where we're standing here.
Yes.
How's your mom doing right now? How does she feel?
She's very shaken up, but she feels very blessed, very favored.
And I saw some crews back in this area again today because it is still a little smoky out here. Firefighters say when it comes to brush fires encroaching upon your property, it's always best to call 911. Leave it to the professionals because the fire can move so fast. Darasena told me that in the middle of evacuating her mother and using her own hose, she was able to still call 911 too. She's very thankful to the firefighters who showed up because she says that fire came within 10 feet of her mother's home. In Melbourne, Brevard County, I'm James Sparvero, News 6.
What a story and what a woman. All right, here's a live look now over Daytona Beach. You can see people in the water. It's looking nice. Boy, if that water could just be put up in the sky for a moment and then douse some of these fires that we're seeing right now.
You're explaining the water cycle.
Is that what I was doing? I don't know.
You were, yes. Evaporate that water. Let's put it back down. Let's some clouds in here. Yeah, we need it bad. I mean, you saw how crazy. I mean, one little spark just does that because things are so dry out there. So we really need to be mindful.
Tinderbox.
For sure. Seminole County added to that burn ban today. And we'll continue to see that expand likely as we continue to go through the next week or so without any rainfall. Here's a live look outside right now in Port Canaveral. Gorgeous shot. Again, we could use a drink of water. It's a live look with our Launch Credit Union camera this evening. Temperatures nice and mild today after a relatively speaking cooler start. We're at 75 degrees under a mainly sunny sky. The breeze at about 10 miles an hour right now. We are dry this time around because this chunk of high pressure, our cold front, is long gone. It is disintegrated back into the Caribbean. Now we are watching high pressure slide back off our coast, that clockwise airflow around high pressure, inducing that breeze off of the Atlantic Ocean. So it's helping to keep us, relatively speaking anyway, cooler along the coast today. It's also helping to crank up that rip current threat. So if you are heading to the beach over the next few days, be mindful of that is going to be high. Red flags are flying. Here's the updated drought monitor. There's not much change. We weren't expecting much. It's going to take a lot to go to the next level here. We have a 3 out of 5 on the scale, and that orange color, that's the severe drought from Daytona Beach through the villages, parts of the Ocala National Forest and the northern half of Lake County, and then extending back to the Gulf Coast. The moderate drought in orange there from Sanford, Orlando, back on the southern side of Leesburg into Claremont and into parts of Mineola, Montverde. That's where we have the moderate drought. So we need some rain again. You don't need me to tell you that. Just look at how far below normal we are. Again, it is the dry season. That's one of the comments I've seen a lot on social media. It's supposed to be dry. It's not supposed to be this dry, though, where we get ourselves into that severe drought situation. Last year at this time, there was no drought for reference. Hanging around 5 inches below normal in Orlando on the year, pushing 6 in Daytona Beach. About 5 inches, or pushing it anyway, in Sanford, Melbourne. We're doing the best out of the 5 major climate sites around Central Florida. Still about 3.5 inches below normal, though. Leesburg, we are just a touch over 5.5 inches below normal. So again, we could use some rain. There's just not much in the 7 to 10 to 14 day outlook here. 83 degrees in Groveland. We're at 83 also in Leesburg, Mount Dora. Good evening. We are back to 82. Now here's a look at your pinpoint accurate forecast.
Your forecast is sponsored by the Florida Lottery.
Temperatures starting off in the 60s for most of Central Florida along the I-4 corridor. A touch cooler in Marion County for us in Denellen. We're at 55, 56 in Ocala under a mainly clear sky to start tomorrow. Lots of sunshine again, pushing 90 degrees the further west you are of Orlando. So us along the I-75 corridor, Denellen, Bushnell, Wildwood, we're pushing 90 degrees. Back to the upper 70s and lower 80s along the Space Coast, Volusia Coast, and into Flagler County. We're at 85 in Kissimmee. Orlando tomorrow, we are at 84 degrees. 7-day forecast. Again, if you have plans to be outside for Easter, it's looking very nice. A little on the toasty side, upper 80s on Easter Sunday, pushing 90 on Monday, jumping into the lower 90s Tuesday, Wednesday, into Thursday. Sticking out like a sore thumb. It's that rain chance, and it's not high at all. Only 20% Ginger on Wednesday.
But we will take it, Jonathan.
For sure.
Thank you. Our next stop on the road is Claremont, so if you live there, we want to hear from you. What makes your community special? What are your concerns? And how can we help you get results? Let us know at clickorlando.com/hitstheroad. Fill out the form and don't be surprised if you hear from us. Keep streaming. We'll be right back.
Coming up tomorrow, it's one of the largest events of the year set to roll into Daytona Beach. And it's not motorcycles, it's Jeeps.
We're going to have what you need to know as thousands of Jeep fans descend on Central Florida. We're also going to explain how this event actually gets results for local charities. Plus your pinpoint weather and your traffic every 10 minutes. We'll see you for News 6 Mornings. It starts at 5.
A volunteer eagle watcher flew into action after seeing an eaglet missing from the nest behind her home. While Florida's eagle population is doing great, there are many cases of them being wounded in accidents, entanglements, and even being poisoned. News 6's Stephanie Rodriguez shares the story of Blink, the one-eyed bald eagle on the road to recovery.
And I came out one morning, Monday morning, and I noticed that they were not on the nest.
Jessie Dixon has lived in Kissimmee for 8 years. She says what sold her on the house was Betsy and Benjamin, her two avian neighbors.
A bald eagle flew over us and went and landed on the nest, and I could see that it was a nest, and I was like, sold.
As a volunteer eagle watcher, she monitors their nests and reports their movements to the Audubon Center for Birds of Prey. Last week, she discovered their baby, or eaglet was gone.
So my husband and I, we walked over around the lake and over to the nest, and we found the eaglet under the nest.
She then realized it only had one eye, meaning it likely wouldn't survive in the wild. Unable to capture it that day, the Audubon Center for Birds of Prey coordinated a search party.
And so we were able to get him, and now he's at the Center of Birds of Prey.
The Maitland Center specializes in eagles and is evaluating the eaglet dubbed Blink by Dixon.
About 12% of our overall patient load is eagles, and last year we admitted 739 patients. That included 89 bald eagles.
Blink will likely never be released given its condition, but it is getting the treatment it needs to survive.
The vet did come and see it, so to determine it is missing an eye, so a diurnal bird with one eye. Our criteria here is that we don't release diurnal birds with one eye. They need both eyes to hunt.
Many of their rescues come from volunteers like Dixon, who spend time helping this symbol of America survive and thrive.
Well, my heart fell when I saw that he wasn't on the nest. I was so relieved when we were able to catch the eaglet. I mean, I didn't think it was going to happen, and so I was very happy, very excited.
In Kissimmee, Stephanie Rodriguez, News 6.
I love the story of Blink.
Yeah.
I just love the eagles, and of course,
Oh my gosh.
what's not to love about them? They're so majestic, right?
They really are.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for watching News 6 at 6:30. Stream News 6 online anytime on our News 6 Plus Smart TV app. We break news on clickorlando.com. We'll see you again tonight at 11.
Whether you suffer from an upset stomach after you eat or you have constant unexplained bloating, you're not alone. Millions of Americans suffer from gastrointestinal problems. Joining us today is Dr. Navanethan with the Orlando Health Digestive Health Institute. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So let's start with the difference between IBS and IBD.
So IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. Basically, patients have irritable bowel. So anytime you eat some foods, can trigger some symptoms like bloating, gas, abdominal pain, diarrhea. While IBD is inflammatory bowel disease, which is basically actual inflammation. So you actually see damage to the colon or your small intestine because of some genetic factors or other factors can happen. And they actually have real damage to the bowels, which actually can impact their life quite a bit.
So IBD is much more serious.
That's correct. It's a much more serious condition than irritable bowel syndrome.
So the first course of action usually is to try to control the symptoms with some dietary changes. What are those, and what foods should people be avoiding?
So there are something called trigger foods in patients with IBD, and one is a pro-inflammatory food. So trigger foods are, for example, if you eat too much of insoluble fiber, for example, apple with the skin on,
right.
Broccoli, cabbage, things like that.
And that's the stuff that's supposed to be good for us,
I know,
right?
But not for an IBD patient. These foods can actually trigger symptoms because they actually have high amount of insoluble fiber in them, and they can cause bloating, gas, and pain. There's some other food called pro-inflammatory foods, which actually can promote inflammation and can actually cause damage to the bowel wall. And also use of artificial sweeteners in your drinks and things like that, or additives or any kind of a processed stuff can also cause inflammation. Unfortunately, they're everywhere.
You are an international expert when it comes to IBD, and you've done research, you treat patients. There are a lot of new tools out there for you to help people get better. What is Orlando Health doing to advance the cause and help bring better care?
I mean, we have advances of all the treatments you can imagine in IBD. For example, we do a trial supported by the NIH, National Institute of Health. We are trying a new exploratory way to manage IBD. It's called hyperbaric oxygen treatment in a chamber. We're using that as an option for treating severe ulcerative colitis patients in the hospital. So we're using that as part of the trial. We also have access to around 20 clinical trials with other advances like phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. On top of it, we can offer the most advanced endoscopic treatment available anywhere in the world, just because of the access we have in terms of resources. So we offer techniques where nobody else offers in the state of Florida, or very little in the state of the United States as well. So we have all the advances you need, starting from medicine, endoscopic treatment, and surgery if needed at this point of time.
And if you would like more information, you can visit orlandohealth.com/DHI.